Welcome to another This Week in Co-working discussion.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the This Week in Co-working podcast feed. Once again, I am your host, Hector Kolonas, and I've got a great episode today for you. I'm joined by Justin Moran from Workplace over in Massachusetts, and he's going to be digging into not only how he's been able to scale with a limited amount of staff, but where he is taking his business to with AI, vibe coding, etc. So to dig into it all, Justin, how are you?
Doing all right. Thanks for having me today.
Great to have you here. Great to have you. We've geeked out a few times offline and online, but not on the recording. And I always just love the way you approach technology in your business. But for folks who maybe haven't had the chance to come across one of your other episodes that you've recorded or spoken to in person, tell people what is Workplace. Where did it start? I think you guys just celebrated 10 years. Congrats on that.
Yep.
What was the story?
Yeah, I was operating a business with another couple gentlemen and I needed a place to work. They were in Chicago. So I stumbled upon a small business center. Long story short, I was there for 4 years and the gentleman that was operating it was getting closer to retirement. I ended up paying him a small fee for the content and the goodwill and just basically took over. So it was a business. It was stuck in the 90s. I like to say the fax machine was next to the coffee maker. Day one, that went in the trash and I just started over. I had always been the guy when I was at a couple different startups that helped with infrastructure, I call it, like setting up the network, ordering furniture, assembling furniture. So I figured, how hard can it be?
Oh, those words have been said by so many.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I spent the next few years really learning the business. I'd always been in sales and quickly learned, not too quickly, but learned over time that this was more of a marketing and a hospitality business versus a real estate and a sales business. So once that sort of sunk in, things started to groove, if you will. So quickly went from one location to two the following year, and then just dug in, taught myself the business for a few years, and then in 22, I added 2 locations, and in 24, I added a 5th. So that's been the trajectory over time.
A really interesting entry into it, because obviously you took over a space that you happened to be a member in. You then, the other acquisitions, the other locations, were those just pure like rent arbitrage approach? Like you took a long-term lease and chopped it up? Any kind of creative agreements in there, or is it all just you rented and
Yeah, they were all just leases.
Cool.
Nothing too creative. Yeah. Maybe one day I'll enter a management agreement, but it's just hasn't been in the cards yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of conversations in this podcast and in other like discussion forums. Like, is there benefits, right, to having less NOI up front and less fit out cost up front, but then sharing on the upside? Yeah, it's neither here nor there, but it's great to see that you grew traditionally through traditional flex, as you will, to 5 locations, and that's a great momentum. But tell me quickly, how many members of staff do you have across the entire organization now?
Yeah, so there's just 5 of us. I run a pretty lean shop. I lean on outside expertise from a marketing perspective and sometimes a technical perspective. But the operations, we're pretty lean. And I like to think we can remain lean because of how much we rely on technology. I have 80 automations running in the background with Optix. Optix is my co-working management platform. So that really helps. That really helps take the burden of the minutia off of myself and my staff. I really lucked out when I chose Optix because like less than 90 days after I purchased the platform, they launched this automations platform, and the light just dawned. I was like, wow, this is how this should work. So we really leaned into it. And one of my staff members, Carrie, she manages and maintains all the automation. She's just gravitated to that. So I just let her run with it. And we meet every Friday to make sure they're all working properly. And if there's ever an issue, we reach out to Optix and hopefully it gets changed quickly. And that's been great.
That's awesome. I mean, a lot of folks who maybe aren't on Optix, they use something similar, like maybe through a Zapier or a Make.com or like that. So automation is definitely allowing your teams to focus more on what matters and less on, as you said, the minutia. Give me an example, like your top 3 automations that could probably save you the most amount of time.
Yeah. The number one, I always say this, the automations allow us to treat everybody the same. So I don't care if somebody's going to rent a meeting room for an hour and pay me $40 versus somebody that's going to come in and spend $1,000 a month for the next 3 years. I want everybody to be treated the same. And like the best automation is anytime anybody engages or rents one of our services, or rents one of our meeting rooms, I should say, they get the same welcome email. They get the same information about Wi-Fi and bathrooms and staff and coffee and everything, just to make them feel just as welcome as the person that's going to spend 30 grand with me over the next few years. You know, so that's the best part. It's just because anytime anybody interacted with in the past, it was like, oh, geez, did we send that email? Or it just became really kludgy. And when I graduated from 4 to 5 spaces, I was like, geez, I really better get on this because it's going to get away from us and we're going to suffer as a result. Now it just runs. That's the best one.
This was such a good one. And a lot of my day job is working with operators hitting about 8 to 10. And then they're like, okay, now we have got so much technical drag, so much organizational drag that we now have to then go and automate. So kicking that in at like 4 or 5 locations, absolutely the right move. And I'm glad to see that the automations are paying out for you. But outside of, Optix and your automations, there's a lot of other tech that you've kind of dug into. Do you have a technical background before you kind of came into the space? I know you said you were in sales a little bit and a little bit kind of infrastructure.
Yeah, I've always had an affinity for technology. And then I worked for about a decade when I was much younger in IT consulting sales. So I was exposed to a lot of different platforms. So like the company I worked for would benchmark different technologies against each other, and then we would write reports. And so it was my job to then resell them information about, the competitive landscape, et cetera. Yeah, I had a background. I've never coded in my life. I still have never coded in my life, but I was on a ski trip with my cousin who is also very tech forward, but not a coder. And he's like, have you ever heard of Claude? And I was like, I think I've heard of it, but I don't know what. And I'm creating a second. It's like, what, dude, what are you talking about? Anyways, like, long story short, I downloaded it immediately. And yeah, about the last 90 days has just been all Claude all the time. I've really dove into it. For the first 30 days, I was just messing around with Cowork and automating certain things. But the last 60 days, I really got into Claude Code. And it's been great. It's been so cool. When they launched Design a couple 3 weeks ago, I, for the longest time, was having the hardest time with my old website, scoring above like a 50 in the Ahrefs, if you're familiar with Ahrefs score. I could not get it above 50 because it had so much legacy junk. It just had been band-aided together over the past, it was about 4 years old. I was using a platform called Prismic, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to make a new website.
Yep.
And it was raining that day, and it rained all day Sunday. And 20 hours later, I had a brand new website. I vibe coded my own chatbot. I vibe coded my own AI answering service. I vibe coded my own book a meeting or book a tour widget.
Okay.
So I was able to unplug Intercom, which used to be my AI chatbot. I was able to unplug Calendly. I was using Calendly because Optix, although it has a book a tour button, you can't measure the conversion for ads. So I was using Calendly.
Attribution,
I was spending $300 a month for that. I was spending another $100 a month for Intercom. And it's taken me time. And does it have all the features that those platforms have? No, but I don't need those features. That's the opportunity, I think, for all small business owners with vibe coding. It's that, somebody's invoice for a very narrow application really is your opportunity. Basically get rid of that invoice. And I've jumped in with both feet and really, taught myself the whole platform.
Of that, we're going to dive into a little bit more, but what you're basically saying is any SaaS vendor or software as a service vendor should only invoice you once a year to try and avoid being replaced every month. So that's one of the main things I'm taking away here.
Yeah, I don't. The hype around the Sascopolis, what do they call it? The Sascopolis. I think that is overblown. I am never going to unplug Optix. Full stop. I am never going to vibe code myself into my own co-working management platform. Like, no chance.
Yep.
There's one thing to be said about what I'm doing, and there's another thing to be said about what those guys do. Like, it's altogether different. Maintaining that, fixing bugs, that would be a full-time job in of itself for someone to just vibe code that. It's these little applications on the periphery that are real opportunities for guys.
Yeah. So I want to dive into that a little bit. Like, where is that line, right? Because you've been in this world for about 90 to 60 days, really kind of putting out what we'll call vibe coded solutions. 90 days in the world of Claude Code. 180 days for a year, you'll probably be a little bit more confident, a little bit more understanding about like what you did right, what you did wrong, what can be improved. At what point should the Optixes of the world be worried that, hey, I don't need all the bells and whistles once again, I can reduce my bill? Like, where is that line? Because we've seen operators that completely vibe code their whole operating system and then like get to a point where they're like, oh, I now have to look after this thing. I have to like there's people's personal data in here. There's privacy laws, there's invoicing rules. There's all these things that people don't get to, but then for like booking links, totally get it. Like it's a single point of delight that you can create, where before is a single point of invoice. So for you, like, how do you choose what do you vibe code and what do you leave to the professionals?
Yeah. So here's an example. So like every co-working management platform has an issue raiser, like, oh, issue, the light's out in my office, blah, blah, blah. And that's all it is. It's like it's like when you're on a Zoom call and someone hits the hand button. Yeah. Well, my light's out. Okay, then what? So I created a little app for my staff that not only raises an issue, but you can take a picture of it. And then it gets sent to me. And then populates a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet basically outlines, who raised the issue, what is the issue, here's a picture, what contractor are you going to call to get it resolved? In that case, and I would change the light bulb, not a contractor, but if it's something else that I don't do. Yeah. And so you take it all the way from issue raising to resolution. So Optix has an issue raiser for everybody, but that's all it is. It's like a hello. So if you really want to optimize, or if you really want to little processes like that, those are the opportunities, I think.
So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of, reward or opportunity, as you said, in just making manual work flows more automated. And that's definitely what I'm picking up for you, is finding those, like, where do the email threads become threads, right? If it's just an email and something gets done, email gets done, most of the time that's fine. But when it's like, okay, I have an issue. Okay, what is the issue? Where is the issue? How is the issue? Who do we call? Once you got that sequence of things, and it's pretty standard for that, that's when you kind of would choose to create a vibe coded solution for that. Now, is that connecting back into Optix at all, or is it just going all into the spreadsheet as like a secondary?
It's just a Google sheet that I look after, if you will. And then the other ones, I think I mentioned it earlier. The other ones are like, if somebody's giving you a solution and it's just far more than you need, you can vibe code something that's very narrow, very specific, like the book a tour button. Like I said, I had to use Calendly because Optix doesn't measure conversions. So I just vibe coded one that just books an appointment. If you look at behind the scenes in Calendly, they offer all these features and this is the value they're trying to sell you, but I just need this. So if you can get that up and running without fail, then that's just an opportunity to save money and to give yourself the exact app you need.
And did you ask that specific vibe coded widget the functionality to have attribution? Because that was the reason why you couldn't use Optix's booking, right? Do you now track that attribution as to which Google ad generated that booking? So let's run through that. If someone's never picked up Claude Code before and they're an operator and they're like, oh, I want to build my own stuff. You booted up Claude Code. And what did you tell it? You just basically told it the problem? Like, did you plan anything before? what did that look like to create this new widget?
Yeah. So my sort of workflow with that has traditionally been like there's three options in Claude. It's like chat, co-work, and code. So if I have an issue that I feel as though could be helped with, via vibe code, via Claude, I'll go to the chat and I'll just start talking about the problem. And I'll say things like, I'm thinking about replacing Calendly, and this is exactly what I use it for. And I don't need any of the other stuff. And I need it to track conversions. I need it to email us immediately if somebody books a tour. I need it to, I just tell it what I need to do. And I'll just ask it, is this something that Claude Code could make for me?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is yes, I say, all right, give me a prompt that I can paste into code in such that it just starts off right away. It starts coding it. That workflow for me has been really good. I think increasingly code is getting better at just natural language. So you don't necessarily have to create the prompt in chat, but if you're coming off the street and just this is your first day, I think that would be the best way to kick things off.
Yeah, I like that. I'm not used Claude Code a lot, but I definitely use Cursor as like a coming from the developer world, and it also has this plan and deploy, plan and do, or plan and build modes.
Cool.
So plan, you kind of build the scope, build the idea. It asks you qualifying questions. One pro tip for folks who are looking at using the chat first is always end your thing with ask me any qualifying questions. Ask me any questions you need to build a better scope.
No, that's huge.
And then the AI agent will actually ask you and kind of spot the ideas that you're done for, or let them need to go into the scope. And then one pro tip when you finished building your vibe coded solution is ask Claude Code or your AI agent to check that it's production ready. The amount of times that we've seen people deploy code that has just been spit out of Claude Code, and it contains their passwords, it contains their private keys, and it contains their Stripe details. And then they put that on their website and they don't actually realize, what that has actually opened them up to. But I mean, this is all great. And, AI is changing everything, but there must have been some times where you're like, oh, I did something wrong, or, hey, this is actually still a challenge. Like, what are the often unhyped about drawbacks of doing everything vibe coded yourself?
Yeah, I think the QA part of it is I'm not a trained computer scientist, so I don't know anything about QA. So I always have something running in the background. If I give code a new project, I always have something in the background. It's called GSD. I'm not sure if I can swear on this podcast, but it stands for Get Shit Done. Yeah. So Get Shit Done is always running in the background. And I think it was written by somebody who understands the whole development lifecycle. And so each step along the way, it checks in with you and asks you appropriate qualifying questions and is concerned about security. And then if I have something that I've completed, I'll go back to it and say something like, make sure this is secure. Make sure this is not something that can just be hacked in 2 minutes. That tends to make me feel better about it. I'm not creating any applications that contain someone's very personal information. If somebody hacked into one of my apps, they might get somebody's email address, but that's it. I don't collect payment information in any way but Stripe, and I'm not going to vibe code Stripe anything.
No, do not vibe code Stripe. That would be a terrible idea. Not that people haven't tried, don't get me wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is fascinating. So I'm assuming because you're giving every app its own Google Sheet, right? You're not really building a centralized database or giving it access to your Optix database or CRM data or anything like that. No. Have you started thinking about anything like that?
No, I haven't. The data files just live in my Google Drive. Really.
Google Sheet, yeah.
That's just where everything lives. And the context is the most important part of any of this entire conversation. And so all of the background and files and context around everything that I've built just all lives in the same place. That, like, if somebody is listening to this and they're like, I don't know what these guys are talking about, I'm interested, but like the best thing to do is just download Claude and have it organize your junk folder. Everybody has a junk folder. Everybody has, it either lives on your desktop or wherever. Just download it, go to Cowork and say, point it to this file or this folder and say, organize this, make this make sense. One of the first things that I did, we had 13,000 photos in Dropbox of our kids. One of the first things I did was go in here, get rid of all the duplicates, and organize everything by date. This was a project my wife and I have been talking about it for maybe 8 years.
Yep.
You know, our kids are teenagers now. We took millions of photos of them, and it was done in 4 minutes.
Yes.
It just done. So if you're just dipping your toe into this, let it do something simple like that. Start with the file folder first. And then you're like, the light sort of dawns. I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big mistake a lot of folks make is they try and dive in and automate or vibe code the most complex part of their business. The thing that really, like, the thing they hate doing, and that's one of the rules of automation, is trying to automate the frog first, right? The thing you don't want to deal with. But definitely when it comes to new tooling like Claude Code, like Claude Cowork, which a lot of SEOs completely hate that they called it Cowork, but a whole different topic. But like, as you said, get started with some mundane task.
Innocuous thing. Totally.
Especially if it's something that is important to you, such as your kids, but isn't critical to the sustainability of your livelihood. Start with that, right? Start with something like that. You know, if you are someone who's had a lot of experience of losing a Word document, you know, of halfway through a dissertation or something like that, do a backup first and then let it run over it just so you have that assurity. But then you start building the muscle, right? You start building that, so if I can do it for photos, can I also do it for invoices? Can I also do it for quotes or proposals we've sent out? And that's when I think when a lot of operating teams start to get this idea of, this isn't just a chat interface. It's not a questions and answers. This is taking me to a more agentic workflow where I can be like, hey, go do a task. Come back and tell me what the task does. And then you get into autonomous agentic where it's like, you know, you have a little iMac sitting there with, you know, a little bot that lives on it and it does things when you respond to it on Telegram, whatever. But that is another level up, which there are pros and cons for. Have you had any major like snafus or F-ups where you're like, I broke this with vibe code? Or you've been very, very lucky or careful so far?
I've been lucky and careful, but at one point before I made my new website, I was using code at the time to manipulate some stuff on my website. And all of a sudden every page was gone. Every page, 25, 30 pages on the website, it was gone. Like, the framing was still there, but all the content was gone. And I thought I deleted my entire website, but I didn't. So I just was able to go with it. But that's the best thing about these tools is, oh my God, I did this. Can you help? And I know what happened. Just go back into Prismic and go to here, and everything came back. It was fine. It took 30 minutes, but
so that aged about 3 years in that 30 minutes.
But I think I was definitely sweating. That one. And those were early days. So I wasn't quite sure what to think. But no harm, no foul. But I think that's been the biggest oops.
I mean, definitely heard of horror stories of like, especially when you get a little bit too courageous, when you're like, hey, I've got this data, I've got this Excel sheet. But why do I have the Excel sheet? Let me just connect it straight to HubSpot. Let me connect it straight to my inventory system using an MCP or an API. And they're like, it's going to be fine. AI knows what it's doing. And then you have horror stories of people just randomly being renamed. You have entities being wiped because it's like, this is a bug. These 3 people can't exist. I'm going to delete one of them at random. And then last week we had the news story about the app developer who the system just doing like a update task was like, I ran into this bug. The easiest way to fix this bug is to just delete the database and then there's no more bug. And then instead of just deleting the development server, it deleted the production server. But then it was like, well, since we deleted the production server, we don't need the backups anymore. So deleted the backups as well in 9 seconds. And like, so it caused chaos. They were out for about 3 days as they went and got like cold storage, backups, restore, all that stuff. But it's one of those things where, you know, sometimes people go a little bit over their skis, right? When they're like, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's what I like about Claude is because it's hard to get yourself in trouble with Claude. I did buy a Mac Mini. It's sitting right there. I did the whole OpenClaw thing. I created an agent for my business and my personal life, blah, blah, blah. But then like after about 2 weeks, I was like, I think I can just accomplish everything that I'm, have goals for with this whole live coding thing right in Claude.
Yeah.
And so if you stay in Claude, there is less opportunity for one of your agents in Open Claude to delete your whole calendar.
Yeah.
And those things happen. If you don't give it the right instructions, if you don't give it the right context, if you're just sending it, and I have a tendency to just send it, but just whatever, and see what happens next type of guy. It's better to stay inside an application rather than just go willy-nilly.
Yes. And as someone who looks after a lot of tech stacks across the industry, one of the questions we're getting now is, well, it's not just the owners and operators who want to vibe code. It is the front of house. It is that new intern you just brought in. It's the folks coming out of uni or college now who are way more AI native in the way that, they see our apps, our SaaS platforms as fax machines, right? And they're going to come in and be like, we got to throw this out. I can vibe code a Tinder-like app in a second that's going to make onboarding a new customer a breeze. And we're getting a lot of that excitement, that intuition, that initiative running into old school IT sec, protections. Like you do not give anyone access to your database. And so how, as operational leader, do you balance that? Yes, we want the most inspired, initiative driven staff, but also we do not want to give this unrestricted access. And what is that middle that you have to construct? Because right now it is folks like us who are just like, we can take 60, 90 days, but there's going to be folks who come in and they're like, I know this. And you're either going to tell them you don't know this, or you're going to tell them, fine. And how do I securely let you experiment without risking the organization, our data, our insurance, all of that stuff?
If I was that type of operator who had somebody with that young kid with a lot of gumption and know-how, I would put guardrails up as soon as possible and develop some sort of strategy around it. Like, what are the opportunities, like the ones that we were talking about a few minutes ago, and just put them in a box.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your box. Kick around as much sand as you want. I don't care.
Yep.
But don't mess with this, which is credit card info and personal data. And I think that'd be the best way to handle a situation like that. Is just throw up guardrails and define a play box that they can play in.
Yep, absolutely. I love that. It's been great chatting with you. And I can geek out with you about this stuff all day. This is literally my love language, talking about AI automation, all that stuff. I could do this all day. But they let people kind of get back to their day. If there was one takeaway for anyone who was like, I'm vibe code curious, other than just, installing and running it on their photo app, what is the one resource or place that you think that people should get them from 0 to 1?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I actually YouTube. When the first thing I did when I downloaded it, I went to YouTube and just said, what is Claude? And there are thousands of videos there. Be careful about the ones that are trying to sell you skills or that type of crap. Most of those skills are junk, garbage. And go to YouTube and just figure out step 1, step 2, step 3. And then the only thing you need after that is determination and curiosity. Because I didn't think my business had much data. It's not like we have streams of Oracle databases. I didn't think my business had that much data, but it actually does. And so you slowly start connecting those sources of data carefully, and just ask questions. So the curiosity, technology finesse, and if you're kicking things off the first day, hang out on YouTube for 2 days, and you will learn a lot. You will learn a lot.
Well, I've learned a lot today. Justin, thanks again for sharing your insights with us here on the pod. Thanks for always creating content around what you're doing. And thanks for running co-working spaces for 10 years, right? It's a testament to what you're doing. Thanks for doing that. I'll put your contact details in the show notes and in all the places. Justin, thank you very much for joining me. Take care.
That's my pleasure. Thanks, Hector.